She cancels on you again, third time this month, and you sit there, alone, with your phone in your hand, and you start typing, "No worries." Stop. Just stop right there. Because that moment, that tiny, automatic, reflexive little moment, is where everything goes wrong. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why, and exactly what to do instead. Here's what nobody tells you. The moment you say "no worries" to something that absolutely does worry you, something has shifted, something important, and it doesn't shift back easily. That response communicates something, not what you intended, not "I'm understanding and easygoing." What it actually communicates is, my time has no value, my plans have no value, and honestly, neither do I. And she feels that, even if she can't name it. She feels it. Let's be clear about something right from the start. This is not about being difficult, not about being cold, not about punishing anyone or playing games. This is about something much simpler and much more important. It's about whether you actually respect yourself. Because here's the truth that most men never hear directly. The way you allow yourself to be treated tells people exactly what you think of yourself, every time, without exception. Most men have been taught the wrong thing. They were told that being understanding, flexible, accommodating, that's how you show a good woman you're worth keeping. That's how you demonstrate your value. And on the surface it sounds reasonable. Be a good man, be patient, be giving. But here's where it breaks down. There's a massive difference between choosing to give generously from a place of genuine abundance and accepting poor treatment because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. One comes from strength, one comes from fear, and she can feel the difference every time. People can sense desperation, sense. They can sense when someone is being nice not because they want to be, but because they're scared of what happens if they're not. And that energy doesn't create respect, it creates the opposite. It creates the feeling that you can be pushed, that your boundaries are optional, that your needs are negotiable. Think about the men you respect most in your life. Not necessarily the loudest, not necessarily the most aggressive, the ones you actually respect. What do they have in common? They have opinions and they hold them. They have standards and they keep them. They don't bend just because someone is uncomfortable with where they stand. They don't apologize for taking up space. And most importantly, they don't need your approval to feel okay about themselves. That is what respect actually looks like. Now think about what the opposite looks like. Someone who agrees with everything, who never pushes back, who always makes himself available, who rearranges his whole life around someone else's convenience, who says whatever you want so often it becomes meaningless. What do you feel toward that person? Not respect, not attraction, something closer to pity, and then, if you're honest, maybe a little frustration, because nobody actually wants to deal with someone who has no spine, even if they'd never say it out loud. Here's something important about how attraction actually works. It's not logical. It doesn't respond to fairness or effort or how much you deserve something. It responds to energy, to presence, to the feeling that a person has real weight, that they stand for something, that they're going somewhere, that they won't crumble under pressure. That's the thing that creates genuine pull. Not how much you do for someone, but who you are when things get uncomfortable. And discomfort is exactly where this all gets tested. Because it's easy to have standards when nothing is on the line. Easy to say, I have boundaries when everything is fine. The real question is what happens when there's friction, when she's upset, when saying something she doesn't want to hear might cost you something. What do you do in that moment? That moment is everything. That moment reveals the truth about whether your self-respect is real or just a performance. Let me talk about testing, because this is something men rarely understand clearly, and misunderstanding it costs them enormously. Women, not all consciously, not maliciously, do test. They push, they cancel, they use a tone, they make demands, and most men interpret this as hostility, as the problem itself, and they try to solve it by being nicer, by accommodating more, by smoothing it over, but that's the wrong response, because the test isn't looking for compliance, the test is looking for something completely different. The test is looking for stability. It's asking a question, not, will you do what I want? The real question underneath the behaviour is, are you actually solid? Are you the kind of man who holds his ground calmly when things get uncomfortable? Or are you going to fold the moment there's any pressure? The irony is that passing the test looks nothing like what most men think it does. Passing doesn't mean giving her what she wants. Passing means staying grounded in who you are regardless of what she wants in the moment. And here's where most good men get this completely backwards. They're so focused on being accommodating and proving they're not difficult, not aggressive, not controlling, that they sacrifice the very thing that creates genuine respect. They're so busy being manageable that they become irrelevant. Not a problem, not a threat, just furniture. Comfortable and forgettable, present but weightless. And a man without weight cannot create genuine attraction. So what does having real standards actually look like? Not in theory, practically, in real moments. It starts with knowing, really knowing, what you will and won't accept. Not as rules you've memorised from some playbook, but as genuine clarity about what works for you and what doesn't. What feels respectful and what doesn't. What you're genuinely willing to let go of and what actually matters to you. That clarity is the foundation. Without it, nothing else works. When something happens that crosses a line, a repeated cancellation, a dismissive tone, plans being disregarded, the response isn't anger. It's not silence designed to punish. It's not a lecture. It's something much simpler and much more powerful. It's a calm, clear statement of what's true. I made plans based on what we agreed to. That matters to me. This pattern doesn't work for me. Not emotional, not aggressive, just honest, just clear, just direct. And then, this is the crucial part, you follow through. Whatever you said would happen, happens. Not as revenge, not as punishment, because it's simply what you communicated. She cancels last minute without a genuine reason. You're not available the next time she wants to make plans. She uses a tone with you that she'd never use with anyone else. You end that conversation calmly and revisit it when things are different. Your word means something. Your standards mean something. Or they don't. That consistency, that's where the real shift happens. Not in the moment of the confrontation, in the pattern over time, when she realises that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. When she realises that your boundaries aren't mood dependent, that they don't disappear when she's upset or when she pushes harder, that you're genuinely stable, that your self-respect isn't contingent on her approval of it. That is when dynamics change. Let me be direct about something that needs to be said clearly. There is a massive difference between holding your ground calmly and being aggressive or controlling. This distinction matters enormously, and you need to hold it clearly in your mind. Holding your ground means staying in your own lane, maintaining your standards for how you're treated, communicating clearly about what works and what doesn't, and then living accordingly. Controlling looks completely different. It's telling someone what they can and can't do, who they can talk to, where they can go, how they should live. That's not standards. That's insecurity wearing authority as a costume, and it destroys relationships, not just the romantic kind, all relationships, because nobody wants to be managed, nobody wants to be monitored. The goal is never to control another person. It's to know yourself well enough to know what you actually need, and to be honest about it. Real leadership in a relationship isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition. It shows up in small, consistent moments, making a decision without polling the room, taking initiative on something important, being the calm one when things get tense, following through on what you said you would do, not needing constant validation that you made the right call. That kind of leadership, quiet, steady, consistent, is exactly what creates the foundation for genuine trust and attraction. And let's talk about something that's related to all of this, your life outside the relationship, because this matters more than most men realise. A man who has built something real, who has goals he's actively working toward, friendships he values, a purpose that gives him genuine satisfaction. That man is fundamentally different to be around than a man whose entire sense of meaning comes from one relationship. He has options, not in a calculated way, in a genuinely human way. His worth isn't on the line in every interaction. When your sense of yourself doesn't depend on her approval of you, as something shifts, you stop second-guessing every response. You stop monitoring every interaction for signs of her mood. You stop letting her emotional state determine your emotional state. You become less reactive and more grounded. And that groundedness is what she was actually looking for in the first place. The stability that lets her feel safe. The presence that lets her relax. the man who knows himself well enough to hold his position without making it a drama. Here's what most men discover when they actually start living this way. There's initial friction. When you change the pattern, when the man who used to say no worries starts saying that doesn't work for me, there's often a reaction, sometimes irritation, sometimes escalation, sometimes accusations that you've become difficult or that something is wrong with you. This is completely normal. It's not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that the old dynamic is being disrupted. And disruption is uncomfortable, but stay steady. Because what comes after the disruption, if you hold your ground without losing your warmth, without becoming cold or retaliatory, is usually something much better. Respect. Genuine respect. Not the respect you earn by being perfectly agreeable. The respect you earn by being genuinely yourself. By being someone who knows where they stand and stands there consistently. That kind of respect lasts. It grows over time. It becomes the foundation of something real. Some situations won't adjust. Some dynamics are genuinely incompatible with a man who has actual self-respect. And if that's what you're in, if the pattern doesn't shift no matter how clearly and calmly you communicate, no matter how consistently you hold your position, that information is telling you something important. It's telling you that what you have here isn't something that can be made into what you actually want. And walking away from that isn't failure, it's the final act of self-respect. Because here's what it all comes down to. Every day you accept treatment that doesn't actually work for you. Every time you say no worries, when you absolutely have worries, you're teaching something. You're demonstrating something. Not just to her, to yourself. About how much you matter. About whether your time is real. About whether your needs are actual needs or just preferences that get overridden the moment they become inconvenient. You get to decide what you teach. You get to decide what you demonstrate. Not through confrontation, not through performance, through the simple, quiet, daily practice of actually living your standards, actually meaning what you say, actually following through when it's uncomfortable, actually being the man whose presence means something because his word means something. That's the whole thing. Not a technique, not a strategy, just becoming someone who genuinely respects himself, and then watching what that does to every relationship around him, starting today. Starting with the next moment where the old version of you would have typed no worries. Pause and ask yourself, is this actually okay with me? And whatever the honest answer is, I'll live from there. That's where it starts. That's where everything changes. Let me go deeper into something that most conversations about this topic skip over entirely. The internal experience of a man who doesn't have this figured out yet. Because the external behaviour, the over-accommodation, the constant no worries, the endless flexibility, isn't random. It comes from somewhere, and understanding where it comes from is what actually changes it. For most men who struggle with this, the pattern started long before this relationship, long before dating as an adult. It started somewhere in early life where the message landed, quietly, implicitly, repeatedly, that your needs are secondary. That conflict is dangerous. Keeping other people comfortable is how you earn your place. That disagreement risks loss. That being easy to be around is how you stay loved. And those messages, even when they're completely wrong, have a way of becoming operating principles. You don't walk into relationships thinking, I'm going to abandon my standards. You walk in genuinely believing that being endlessly accommodating is the right thing, that patience is the virtue, that making her comfortable is the goal. And it's not until you watch the respect slowly drain out of the dynamic, until you notice the tone, the dismissals, the casual disregard, that something starts to feel off. But by then the pattern is established, and changing established patterns is uncomfortable work. That discomfort is real, and I'm not going to minimize it. Saying something clear and direct when you're used to smoothing everything over feels genuinely risky. The old programming says, if I push back, she'll leave. If I say what I actually think, she'll be upset. If I hold this line, something will break. And those fears have to be faced directly, not argued with intellectually. Faced, acted through, because the only way out is through. Here's what the research on relationships consistently shows. The healthiest long-term partnerships, the ones with sustained attraction, genuine respect, and actual happiness, are built on what psychologists call secure attachment. And secure attachment requires a specific thing from both people. It requires that both partners genuinely believe the other person will be honest with them, will say what they mean, will hold positions, will be predictable not in a boring way but in a trustworthy way. You can't have that with someone who's always agreeing, always accommodating, always finding the path of least resistance, because you never know where they actually stand. You can't trust someone who has no position to trust, and without trust there's no real security, and without security there's no genuine attraction. The math on this is completely consistent. Real trust requires someone who tells you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. What does telling the truth look like when your boundaries have been crossed? It looks like this: calm voice, clear words, no apology for the content of what you're saying. I made time for tonight and you cancelled at the last minute. That matters to me. It's happened 3 times now and I need it to change. No drama, no lecture, no attempt to make her feel guilty, just an honest statement of what's true for you. And then, the harder part, waiting, and not filling the silence with softeners. Most men can't do that last part, can't let the statement stand. The urge to follow it with, "But I understand you're busy," or "I know things come up," or any other escape hatch for her to slip through. That urge is almost overwhelming, and following it is exactly what undercuts the whole thing. The statement has to be able to stand on its own. It has to mean something, which means it can't immediately be taken back. Think about the men throughout history, or even in your own life, who command genuine respect. Leaders, mentors, people whose opinion actually moves you. What would it look like if they said something important and then immediately softened it into meaninglessness? It would destroy the whole thing. The statement has weight because the person behind it has weight. And weight comes from the willingness to let your words mean what they say. Here's something counterintuitive about all of this. The man who holds his ground, who is clear, direct and consistent about what works and what doesn't, often creates more warmth in the dynamic, not less. Because real safety doesn't come from someone who agrees with everything. Real safety comes from someone who tells you the truth, who won't just go along with something because it's easier, who cares enough to be honest. That kind of presence, genuinely trustworthy presence, is what creates real intimacy. The accommodating man thinks he's creating comfort, but what he's actually creating is a kind of free-floating anxiety. Because when everything is always fine, nothing can be trusted. When there's never friction, you never know where things actually stand. When someone agrees with everything, you start to wonder, what do they actually think? Do they even have an inner life? Do they actually care about anything? And that wondering, that low-level uncertainty, is the opposite of what genuine connection requires. A man who has a real self, who has opinions and holds them, who has standards and keeps them, who tells you what he actually thinks even when it would be easier not to, that man is present in a way that the perpetual accommodator never is. He takes up real space, he has actual weight, and his presence means something because it's genuinely his, not performed, not adjusted to maximize approval, his. And that is what creates genuine attraction over time, not the fireworks of the early stages, the sustained pull of being around someone who is actually real, who you can count on to tell you the truth, who won't silently resent you while pretending everything is fine, who respects you enough to be honest with you. That's what people are actually hungry for, even when they don't have the words for it, even when their behaviour in the moment suggests otherwise. Underneath almost every test, every push, every moment of disrespect, there's a question being asked. A real question. Not, will you give me what I want? The real question is, are you actually here? Are you actually present? Are you actually real? Or are you performing? And the only honest answer to that question isn't words. It's the consistent pattern of how you actually show up, day after day, comfortable moment after uncomfortable moment. The consistent man, the one who shows up the same way whether things are easy or hard, is the one she can actually trust. And trust is the foundation of everything real. Not chemistry, not compatibility, not shared interests. Trust. The bone-deep knowing that this person is who they appear to be, that what you see is what you get, that they're not managing you or performing for you but actually present with you. So here's your actual task. Not to become harder, not to become colder, not to manufacture distance as a tactic. The task is to become more yourself, more honest, more genuine, more willing to say the uncomfortable thing calmly, rather than swallow it with a smile, more willing to hold your position when you're tested rather than fold to keep the peace, more willing to invest your time and energy based on what you actually observe about someone rather than what you hope they might become. Start small if you need to. Start with one honest response instead of the automatic accommodation. One conversation where you say what you actually think. One boundary you communicate clearly and then actually maintain. One moment where the old no worries gets replaced by the truth. Just one, and then watch what happens. Not with any expectation of a specific outcome, just with genuine curiosity about what becomes possible when you start telling the truth. Because here is the thing that I want to leave you with. Self-respect isn't a tactic. It's not something you deploy to get a result. It's something you develop through the repeated practice of actually honouring what's true for you. And when you do that, consistently over time in small moments and large ones, something changes. Not just in your relationships, in how you carry yourself, in how you see yourself, in the kind of person you become. And the kind of person you become is exactly what changes everything else. You're worth showing up for. Your time is real. Your needs are real. Your standards are legitimate. The question is whether you actually believe that, and more importantly, whether you're willing to live like you do, starting now, in this moment, with the next choice that lands in front of you. That's where it starts. That's always where it starts. The only real question is whether you're ready to live like that matters. Because it does, and you always knew it did. The man who lives that truth, who shows up for himself consistently, just be that man.